Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Laura Levin from all the way from the United States. So good afternoon, or yes, good afternoon for you, I believe.
Yes, it's good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Pete.
Listen, thank you so much for coming on. Anna's, and I love Anna's website. We've been sort of studying that, so it's there's so much there. And you describe yourself as an energy aligner, heart activator, and a brand translator. There, the sort of the headlines. What
Yes,
intriguing
it's
title.
interesting, right? It's a nice combo. I don't like to settle for one thing, Pete, because this is a yummy life. So I figure let's embrace all of my gifts. And so yes, I do translations of books and audiobooks, but I also do energy alignments, and it's my newfound calling per se and gift.
Hmm.
So in the past 7 years, basically.
And you say, and describe to us a gift. That's a lovely, rich word.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I actually mean the word gift specifically because it's not something that I searched for or that I even desired to do. It's something that continued to knock on my door. And I believe now looking back, you know, I was in training my whole life. Like I came in this way, and um, but in the past 7 years, it has been a little bit stronger, the calling, and more awareness on my part and consciousness, right? And realizing like, this is something that I'm being offered, and it doesn't quite at the same time that it's being offered to me, it doesn't quite need my permission either. And
Hmm.
that's an interesting space to be in when what wants to flow through you doesn't need your permission, and yet you feel like you are in control. Well, I hate to say it, I hate to say this publicly, but I'm not in control many times, most of the times, and I'm learning to not be in control and be okay with not being in control.
That's because that's gonna. Some people are gonna struggle with that, right? It's just well, one, controlling itself, and two, things going on that maybe are outside of your control or even your awareness, and
Hmm.
being okay with that.
Yes, yes, it has been such a learning curve because so I was born, and let me take you back a little bit so you understand the
Please.
journey. I was born a feeler. I can feel nature, I can feel people, animals. There is a hypersensitivity to me that I was aware of from a young age.
Do you see what are you feeling? Is that energy or what is it? And can you see it as well?
I can feel emotions, I can feel what something is trying to communicate. Yes, I can feel what something or somebody needs. I can feel what they feel, all of that. And again, usually it's tricky, right? I appreciate the questions because it's so tricky sometimes for myself to put it into words, because I am a feeler. It's a sensation, it's a right, it's a knowing. So it's okay. It's good. The questions are great. So you know I believe, at least for myself, I'm sure many other people are the same way, or they have like a similar desire to want to understand yourself, to want to fit in and be like others. And when you don't find those reference points, growing up for myself, I kind of like felt like I don't know why I want to say like a fish out of pond. I don't know if that's the English phrase, but that's what's
Yeah,
coming to
fresh out of
mind.
water. Yep.
There you go. Fish out of water. And you want to belong, you want to be loved, you want to be accepted, you want to be part of the clan, right? Part of the family. If my whole family is not like that, or is not exhibiting you know this extrasensory abilities, oh my gosh, then I'm different. I don't want to be different. And so it's been an internal struggle. And I refuged myself in my mind for many, many years. And I went on to get degrees and value my career above my innate capacity to feel, until 7 years ago, when I was completely exhausted and I felt so out of touch with my soul that I said, hold up 1 second, what am I doing? It was literally a moment in my kitchen sink. This is not very romantic or elegant, washing my hands and almost like my soul talking to me, looking at myself, washing my hands in the sink and saying, "What are you doing? You're great at surviving, but what is living like? What is truly living like?" I mean, I will never forget that moment. That moment shook me in the most deepest, intimate part of myself. And I was able to hold on to my soul that I felt I was drifting away from, because I was in this like busy life, doing, achieving. Let's get my bachelor's degree, let's get my master's degree. Okay. And then becoming depressed because after I finished my master's degree, I became depressed. Why? Because I felt inside of me that this was not the path. There is a knowing that we have, there's an intuition that we all have. And when we dare to listen to it, then I believe is when we can actually live the life, the highest potential life that we can live. And for me, it was that moment a couple of years after I finished the master's degree, and I was depressed. I went to my parents' house in Spain for a month. A month and a half, I think. Told them the kids and I are coming because I was a high school teacher, so I had summers off. I'm like, I just need you to be with you guys and just be away from everything and just think. Because imagine the effort being a high school teacher, getting a master's degree while I'm raising the kids, sports, blah, 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 studying at 4 in the morning. It was an effort, a huge physical and intellectual effort. All of that to finish and say, wow, this is not it. This is not what my soul is seeking. I better start learning how to listen because I am not listening very well. All that to say, of course, I value my education. I am happy that I pursued my degrees and everything that I did. But at that moment, when I dare to ask myself, what is living like? That's what completely turned the trajectory of my life for the better.
Well,
So,
do you,
yes,
do you know where that do you know where that void came from?
I truly believe that it was me ignoring me. It was me not listening to my voice, the soul, the voice of my soul, the voice of my heart, not valuing,
Hmm.
my gift. I wanted to be recognized. I looked at society and I see all these people getting accolades because they have degrees, they have careers, they're homeowners, they have cars, and they can travel and they can take their kids on vacations, etc., etc. And nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I love that myself. Okay, so I'm not saying that. I'm saying for myself, I was looking at the outside instead of looking at the God given gift that I have within me, which is innately in me since I was born, since I was created.
Hmm.
And that's what made me feel, depressed or sad or empty.
Do you remember a time pre, and we talk about that gap or that void that's a creation of two, your true self and yourself, if you like, and I'm assuming at some point they split and separated. I mean, do you remember a time when you really felt yourself, and who you truly were, and then was
Yes.
there a split through time?
Yes. I and I do believe that they, intertwined with each other. It's not like I was never myself ever again, but
Hmm.
there were glimpses of me. And that was when I was in nature. That was when I was singing. That was when I was 7 and I taught myself how to play the guitar. That was later on when I became a teacher, when I was teaching um, the pre-K3 kids. It was my first time ever teaching. And I would take them to the chapel and teach them how to pray, how to actually talk to God, not asking for something, but like just communing with God. And those are the moments where I saw my heart is my gift, you know. And I even get emotional saying it because, you know, it I think it's the sadness of running away from who we are that now I have turned into my life passion, my mission to help others to trust in the power of their hearts, to get aligned within themselves with who they are and live a life from that place, empowered from that place. So yes, there were many times raising my children, um, listening to a friend if they're going to through something. You know, there are many times where I was in my own, yeah, in my gift, and then life continued, right, and I would just go back and do what I did, right. So which is fine, it's all okay. I don't refrain from it. I take I take the blessings that come from experience, you know. So
That's beautiful. I like that. Take us back briefly. I mean, what was a small young Anna like? What were we looking at?
it's interesting because my mother left when I was very little. And so I grew up without my mom close by, even though in my heart I always felt like she loved me. I never felt like she didn't love me. But I was pretty sad because kid, you don't understand why your mom leaves. And I had the good fortune of having a stepmom who was great, and you know my dad who provided amazingly as well, and two wonderful brothers. Um, but I believe the story I crafted when I was little is I'm unlovable because I'm not worthy of staying. Like, you know, my mom decided to leave instead of staying with me. Therefore, I must be unlovable. So, you know, there was a lot of sadness that I continue to work through, you know, even in my adult life, because it just truly gets ingrained into us and it bleeds into um, all of our experience in life and all our reality and decisions that we make. So I'm super interested now as an adult to look at those places of little Anna that need healing or need reintegration or need forgiveness or whatever it is. I do know because of the work that I do that we are whole. We are never, you know, missing anything or empty. I mean, it's we're intact. You know, it's because our emotional state, maybe our mental state, or our energetic state is distorted. But once we can realign that, we're good to go. That's why we hear so many people nowadays saying like, "Oh, I hate calling myself a healer." That's why I don't call myself a healer. That's like a little bit presumptuous in my opinion, because that's not what I feel I do. What I do is help people just like I'm helping myself get their energy aligned so that they can actually feel better, you know, be happier, feel know that they are loved, they're lovable at any given moment, despite of the experience that we went through here on, you know, as a human being. So yeah, Anna was always very sensitive, um, kind of shy, believe it or not, even though I can talk. Kind of shy, kind of quiet also. I like the introspection of the quiet moment, just looking at things or even playing by myself. I was great at playing by myself, making up roles. You know, I remember having like a cashier that I made out of a shoebox, you know, and just pretending I was the cashier, or playing teacher, which then it's funny because then I became a teacher. So I would, you know, give my all my classmates grades or recommendations on what to do. It was so funny. So I was very okay with being by myself as well. So
What's your earliest conscious memory?
wow, as early as 2 or 3 years old.
Hmm.
And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I remember happy memories like playing with my brother. Um, I remember seeing my mother perform in theater. She was a singer. She was very young. My mom had me at 20 and my brother at 19, and she was a singer and she did theater, and she did jingles on the radio, and so um, I remember saying, like, being 3, being in the theater, telling everybody, that's my mom on the stage, And then shortly after, that's when she left, like a few years after that, or a year after that. Um, but I do remember that. But I also remember my father leaving the apartment when they got divorced. I was 3 and begging him to stay. I was always, and here we go back again to your initial question. I was born a feeler, and I was able to feel what the adults were feeling. I also was born with a tremendous divine strength. And I always thought, like, I can do it. I can fix this. I can love these people and just keep them together. I can do this. Just give me a chance. Like, I'm gonna show you, that kind of spirit. And so when he left, of course it was devastating. And he's like, "Don't worry, I love you. I'm gonna see you again." And he was just packing his bag, and then he left. So I have very good memory. And of course, like everybody else, there are portions that I have blocked because of, it was emotional and all that I have discovered later on. But I have both sad and happy memories.
I'm interested because the language and stuff you use that, with you, as you were saying with your gift that, excuse me, you could almost show them. And I'm just wondering, that's very like teaching, isn't it? Really, it's sort of, just you could give them the right audience, you could teach them, or you could show them what they needed to say.
Yes. Yes. I myself, I'm learning how to, again, put it into words, that which I do naturally. And I think it's similar to many, many people. Living in beautiful times of realizing that we outgrew some of our jobs, and we have to start really thinking what living is like. How do I actually live life? And how do I integrate, instead of just working for a paycheck and getting to my old age and seeing that I lived a life that was not really aligned with my higher self, or my heart, right? Or my passion. How do I actually integrate all of it and do actually understand and believe that I can be abundant in all areas of my life? And that's the place where I'm at. And a lot of my friends are in the same place. It's really exciting times to ask
Mm.
those questions.
What was the plan then? What was young Anna going to do when she grew up? Were you straight into the teaching, or had you other plans?
I never wanted to be a teacher, ever. I mean, I played teacher, but I originally I wanted to be a veterinarian
Hmm.
because, of
Big animals
course,
or small animals?
all of them.
Okay.
I mean, I love insects and animals, small animals, big farms animals, African animals. Like, I love nature and animals. But my stepmom said, she was wise. She said, "I don't really see you like doing surgery on animals. I don't think you have the heart to do that." And I'm like, she might be right. I might be like, crying with the animal or something. I don't know. So I didn't pursue that. I went into translation, and I studied translation, and then I moved to the United States right before I finished my degree, because I wanted to meet my mom and be with my mom and have a relationship with her, because she was here in the United States. So that was the next step in my healing and evolution in my journey.
What animal did you resonate most with then, as a potential vet?
Well, the first one that comes to mind when you ask me that is the lion. I love lions. I love
Mm.
cats. I love lions and cheetahs and pumas and tigers.
Do you know
I don't know,
why?
maybe because I'm a Leo. I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of gives. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I love cats. I
What
love
What is it
cats.
about them? What qualities do you like?
I like that they're chill, but then they take action when they have to.
Hmm.
But they also can be playful. They're sweet, and they can snuggle. Because even lions, I mean, you see them doing stuff like that. Um, Obviously, they are in packs, and I like that. Yeah, I love cats.
That makes sense. Just wondering. Yeah, so it's amazing, and even the sort of love language you use with that sort of obviously shows you it resonates with you. That's gorgeous.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you ended up being a teacher. So,
I ended up being a teacher. You know what? That was not no, okay, it was a gift. I was about to say that was not a gift. No, that was a gift.
mm,
Um, it wasn't a calling. It was more of a directive. Like, kid you not. Okay, so here's the story. We were in Texas and I started working in the church, in the nursery. My kids were little and I always loved kids and babies and stuff like that. And I'm like, why not? Let's just work at the nursery every Sunday. To me, it was nicer than just being, in the congregation. So the director there at the church, she saw me for a few months and she saw like my ability with the kids and my leadership, and they were having a opening in the Mother's Day program, and she says, I would love for you to teach the pre-K3. I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm not a teacher. I'm a translator. Like, you got it wrong. I'm just, I don't do that. She's like, oh no, you will be great. You should do this. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, it would make sense. My kids are coming here anyway. We can all come here. My daughter was 18 months, 17 months, and my son was barely 3. So I'm like, you know what? It makes sense. I mean, why not? Let's just, and then I'll continue because I never finished my bachelor's. At that point, I needed a couple more years because when I moved to the United States, long story short, I started from scratch because they didn't take my 3 years of university in Argentina, which is what happens, and it's horrible. So if you can only imagine at 21 with algebra again. Ah. But I did it and I did all my GE and then some. And so I only needed like a couple of years. Well, I decided to say yes to this pre K3 position. I said, you know what? It's 1 year. I'm going to do it and I'm going to see what happens. I'm sure the other teachers are going to help me, which they did. And after the 1 year, the director says to me, I really think you need to go and finish your bachelor's degree. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I really want to finish something because I started 2 degrees and now I didn't finish any of them. And I'm like, yeah, she's right. And as I'm exiting the church, I'm in the hallway waiting for the kids to come. And I hear in my head this voice that says, you need to go teach. And I say to the voice, I am not a teacher. I don't want to teach. You need to become a teacher. I'm like, oh man, because this is I have a relationship with the divine, and this is how I know that that's what it was. That's the voice that is talking to me. And I'm like, oh, you have to be kidding. So I said, okay, okay, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to say yes because I by now know that when God leads me somewhere, there is a reason, okay, and I don't have to understand it. So there I went, and I without really having the money for it, with living 45 minutes away from it, with being in a not so healthy marriage, with having a teenage stepdaughter who was going through her own stuff, and with having these 2 babies. With all of that, I was able to actually enroll in the University of Texas at San Marcos and go finish my bachelor's degree. And this is such a prime example of what happens when we say yes and we aligned with that inner voice, whatever we want to call it, with our hearts, not with our minds, because my mind didn't get it. My mind was fighting it. My mind was seeking, well, that's not what I'm after. That's not what I like. But in my heart, I know what I heard. I know what it felt like. I know the certainty, that voice when there's is an undeniable truth. That's the voice that spoke to me. So the rest, I had to again learn to be quiet, learn to receive. This is what's being given to me. And all the right people just fell into place. I mean, the church helped me with the kids the next year by allowing them to come to the Mother's Day Out program for free. I had friends that were like picking them up if I was late, or I mean, and I would run to class because I was 45 minutes away from it. I lived in the country. and I would drive to class, and I couldn't wait for the tram to come around because it would take me too long. And the professors didn't care if you have kids or don't have kids, you live far away. So I would just like literally run in the Texan weather and be drenched in, I'm here, I'm in class, you know? Now I laugh about it. It was crazy. But I'm so glad I did because it just takes me to where I'm now, which is going to take me to where I'm going, in the future. And I don't even remember the original question that you asked me, but that that was heck of a ride for me. It was a great example of what happens in my life when I allow my mind to relax and be okay with not knowing, be okay with not understanding, and yet having the courage to actually move forward with what I know without a doubt that I heard.
You talk about the voice and the divine, and that being God. I'm assuming that that is what you refer to. What's the earliest memory you have of hearing the voice, and do you recognize the voice, or is it just an inner voice?
I do recognize the voice. It's in my heart. To me, God is in my heart, and it's a whisper, but yet it's a firm whisper. That's the best way I can put it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Hmm.
So I know that it's not me because mine is the one that is all like, la, 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 it's all nervous. It's all like, I need to know. And that's not what this voice sounds like. But, it's a good question that you're asking me. I believe that as I grew older and as I continue to grow older, I am able to discern the voice way better. But I
Hmm.
believe that it was always talking to me, in different ways, through nature, through people, through animals, through music, through art, all the things where we see actually the hand of God, right? Creation, and just being in awe and getting that feeling. So perhaps it wasn't the voice that we're talking about, but it was more like a sensation, right? Like a something that opens my heart, and it's like, oh yeah, I
Hmm.
feel that. You know, I remember
Hmm.
being in road trips a lot with my family, and I would always sit behind my father. I don't know. I always like to sit behind him in road trips on the window, and I would just look at the mountains or look at the flat lands in Argentina. I'm from Argentina, and after a while, my dad would say, "Anna, you're still there? Are you okay?" Because I was so quiet. I was just summoned by nature, and I was just so content being lost in nature, doing nothing, just looking at it and just absorbing its energy. So that to me is God.
Well, that's. I mean, what's your go-to place? I mean, if a place of if something was going on in your life or whatever that you feel most grounded, is there a particular place?
Yeah, you mean like in my head or in
Well, in physical, I suppose, more in the physical location and such.
in physical location? Well, right now I have the good fortune of living by the beach, so the ocean is just amazing, amazing. But I like trees. I love trees. Yes, trees just ground me. Just love trees my whole life. The best compliment I have ever received was one of my girlfriends said, "Anna, when I think of you, I picture you hugging a tree." And I'm like, that's the best thing you could have ever said to me.
I was going to say, are you a hugger? Do you hug a tree?
I do. I do occasionally hug a tree.
Give us. I mean, what is the best way to hug a tree? Like I've never done it, and I'm listen. I'm always open to learning and seeing where's the connection. Talk to us.
There's no wrong way to hug a tree. I like to put my hands on the trunk and just feel the energy that comes from the tree. But you know what's interesting, because I do work with energy and now I have a better understanding of it, is that we can actually meditate and visualize and feel the same thing. We can still do it through our mind. So of course it's nice to use our human body and have the sensation in our hands and just, but if you're not close to it, or if it's a rainy day or whatever it is, you can still do some of this, activities in your mind just by visualizing them.
So how was teaching then? How did that go for you? So you had the calling, you had the voice, and you went and you were obedient. You went
Yes.
forward. Talk to us about that.
So then what happened after that one year, I went back to school. Then we moved closer to another town, and um, I grew up in private school, in a Catholic school, and I found a really nice school that I wanted my kids to also go to. And I said to myself, if I were to teach, then I would want to teach in a private school because that's what I'm used to. I like to strive for excellence, but I also like to take into consideration the kids as a whole, right? Not just the subject. And I knew that that was the emphasis of the private school. So I went there and I told them, look, I'm finishing, I'm a native speaker. This is my background. I'm enrolled in this. Oh yes, we can hire you as a Spanish teacher as long as you are enrolled in the university, and we just put it in your contract, no problem. So I ended up teaching there for 2 years. Well, they don't make any money in that private school. I mean, like teachers don't make like one third of what you would make as a public high school teacher. And so after a couple of years, even though it was acute, it was a great opportunity and a great experience because I taught the whole school. So that was fun for me to have pre-K 3 through 8th grade. I got a, you know, array of different ages and different situations, and I love the kids. So after that, I said, okay, well, I also need to eat. So, you know, I ended up getting a job at the high school, and I taught there for 5 years. And that was also really eye opening for me, because you see a lot of other things that you don't see in the private sector. Um, it was hard for me in the sense of I have the utmost respect for all children and all human beings. And I don't have to agree ideologically. We don't have to have the same religion. I think that's part of also what I treasure so much about who I am. Um, and sometimes I didn't see that in the public sector. I saw kids falling through the cracks. I also saw teachers burnt out. Okay, so nobody's saying putting anybody down. I'm just merely as an observer. That's what I saw. I saw adults using their power in a non-compassionate way. And I always made sure that the kids knew I was the authority in the room, but I also made sure that they knew that I loved them and I accepted them. One was not more important than the other for me. And I always wanted to come from that place. I always said, when my heart is not into teaching, I will leave the profession because it would be a dishonor to be in front of these, little adults and, you know, not being there for them in that manner. That's how I wanted to do it. That's how I can look back and say, I'm proud of the way I showed up, you know. But yes, it was the many, many lessons by being a teacher. Children will teach you what resilience looks like, and they'll teach you how to accept different people. I had people with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette syndrome. I mean, you name it, and I adjusted to them the best that I could with the regulations that we're given. Like we're not even allowed to, they have to all be sitting down. But for me, for somebody that has ADHD, they need to move. So I had some kids sometimes on the floor working. I'm like, okay, you know what? As long as you're working, you can work there on the floor. Oh, thank you, miss. And guess what? They would work. They would work in my class. So there's something in the system that we're not doing right because, and I'm not expecting I'm not, again, I want to be very gentle because I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing, because the system is the system. It's not the teacher's fault, right? It's not the administration fault. It's the educational system the way it is. Um, but for me, I wanted to go that extra mile and accommodate, and do things a little bit out of the box, because I might have gotten in trouble if somebody, walked by and like, why do you have three students on the floor, Um, but I took the chance because, again, for me, in my heart, that was the right thing to do. If I want them to, if I really care about all of them, and I wanted them all to learn Spanish, not just a few, the ones that are able to sit down and just pay attention, then I had to accommodate them, And sometimes I got in trouble. I got in trouble for not following accommodations, for example. And to me, again, and it comes down to what I do now, which is to trust in the power of your heart. The dignity of a person is more important than a grade. And unfortunately, we don't see that in this society. We want our kids to fit in, we want them to get an A no matter what. And I had a student that had ADD and dyslexia. So of course, you can only imagine with a foreign language, that's challenging. But he was passing my class, and I was not needing to use the accommodations that much, which for that particular case was oral examination. And yeah, I think it was oral examination and just reading the questions to him and stuff like that. But he was passing my class without it. Well, he was taken out of my class a few months into it because his mother, who never gave me the respect of coming to talk to me, just went straight to administration and asked for him to be switched to another class where he could get an A. And I was crying so much because I had an administrator come to my classroom asking me why I wasn't following the accommodations. I said I am following them, and not but and I also want to give him a chance to do the test just like everybody else. And he's getting 72, 74s. He's passing. And I told him not to worry, because if he's not, I will gladly, he can come to tutorials and we can redo it, and we like not to worry about passing or not passing the class. He's going to pass the class. Um, and I told her, I said, I don't need you or the director, anybody, the principal. I think you guys said headmistress, the headmaster, to pat me in my back. I don't need social recognition. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm not after like, oh, the best teacher, the best, whatever it is, the teacher of the year. I don't care about that. I care about my student with whom I have a relationship, and I'm teaching him that he's capable, you know? And so stories like that just broke my heart, because I was with other adults that didn't share that. And they were more concerned about fitting in and following a system that doesn't really celebrate a human being's, ability to achieve and exceed and, um, learn. So later on, it's a happy ending, because a few months later, his best friend, the student's best friend, who was also in another one of my classes, came to me and she said, Miss, I have to tell you, such and such, the student, said to me that you were the first teacher that treated him like a big kid. And I was like bawling again. I'm like, oh, it was worth it. That's all I needed. I'm like, thank you. Thank you, God, because that's all I needed. Because it takes courage to follow your heart. I needed my job. I could have gotten, I mean, I don't think I got written up because they loved me so much. I mean, bless the administration. Um, but I was going against the flow. And it's uncomfortable to go against the flow. But at the end of the day, and I always say this to my own children, It sounds a little dark, but if I were to die today, am I okay with the way I showed up? Did I follow my heart? Did I follow my higher guidance? Did I give the best of me? Or was I a coward and I, pretended that I didn't listen to that voice and I just showed up halfway? I personally, I want it to be worth it, not easy. I'm not after easy. I mean, if it's easy, that's great. Like, God, please bring it, bring it on. Like, easy is great, okay? But I want it to be worth it. I want my journey and my life to have mattered, not because I'm recognized internationally, like I don't, but because people like this student said, "Man, she made me feel good with myself." That's what I'm after.
Is there an element there that you were trying to connect back to your own self as well?
Yeah, you mean as in like the profession was a mirror of to myself?
Back to your own child, because the way you mentioned the child and you sort of changed language states there as well. I'm just wondering, and working with that student as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, I just wondered if that was
Yeah.
potentially, I suppose, in retrospect, was that a
Yeah.
conscious connection, potential
Yeah.
connection?
You know what? Yeah, I love this question. It was not conscious at all, but now that you're asking me, looking at it, 100%, I believe that it was all related to how I felt as a kid, and wanting to be seen for who I was, and wanting to show that I was capable. Yeah, what a great question. What a great question. I always said, I don't want to forget how I felt as a kid, even though I had a sadness and loss, because it allows me to actually understand others. So
Mm.
I always made a note, a mental note or a heart note, I should say, that no, I don't want to forget how I felt. This is part of my journey, and there's a reason and for everything. So then when I was put, in front of children, then I could relate, and I was looking to tune into each one of them, as much as possible. There's a lot of them. I had like close to 150 students, so that's a lot of human beings. But I really make my the biggest effort that I could have made to just to connect with each one of them and make them feel special and make them feel loved and accepted. Yeah.
Did you blame yourself at all for your parents breaking up?
Um, no, actually, I don't blame myself. I know that that's the typical thing that happens. I don't, I never blamed myself.
Mm.
No, I always felt very loved by both of them, and never felt like I was a burden or no, no, not at all. Not at all. Thank God.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And were you a good teacher?
I think I was a really good teacher. Yes, I'm going to say that. I'm actually very good at explaining grammar. So I can, again, using my gift of I'm tuning into the audience, right? I'm not
Mm.
just like spitting out the curriculum. I'm tuning into the audience, and I'm looking for understanding, and so that nobody falls behind, and I'm asking questions, and it's very interactive the way I teach. And that's why I would make a lesson plan, but then I would just leave it at my desk, because for me it was like, okay, I have that if I need it, but I need to feel where the kids are at. And then that would mean, for example, maybe I had to slow down. Maybe I had to bring somebody to the board. Maybe I had to actually reread something. Maybe I had like it, I would just feel what was needed. Yeah. So yeah, I would say I'm a good teacher. Yes.
Yeah, that's great, and no, it's not a trick question, I promise you. But it's good because I mean, you see it straight away. You big smile on your face, and obviously it's something you cherish.
Yes, I took pride. I like learning. I believe that's one of my highest values, actually.
Mm.
And so I love also to see people learn and to be that catalyst. It's what just gives me so much joy, which is also what I am able to do now in another arena, which is the healing arts and all that, by channeling messages for people as I do the energy alignment and helping them understand themselves better and grow through the energy alignment that they just got. So I'm still me, doing what I do, but now in a different manner or with a different vehicle.
Why is learning one of your values?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I feel like we're always learning. I
Mm.
feel like there's no destination with learning. We think there is because yay, I got a degree, but there's not really, because by the time, for example, I have a master's degree, there can be like a gazillion more studies after I finish my degree, and I have to continue studying. Same thing happens to doctors and lawyers. The laws are changing, or so. Oh, I don't know what happened with my video. Oh, there you go. um so yeah, you know learning, I don't know why, I just love learning. I love learning new things. um I'm curious. I think that's why I like learning. I'm like a kid. I'm very curious. I can be watching a movie, for example, and I'm always asking, where are they? And and what happened here? Like, I'm always very curious.
Are you an annoying person to watch a movie with?
Not if you tell me to be quiet. I only do that at the beginning and then I get into the movies. So, yeah.
I love it. That's like some people just through the movie they're chatting away all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
way to be.
Yeah.
Does it take us on through then? So teaching, what happened? How did it all sort of how did it develop and then come to an end?
So, yeah, so I started pre-K 3, then I taught in the private school, and then I did 5 years of high school. Um, I felt that between what was happening in my personal life
Mm,
and then what was happening in at work and with my degree, and like knowing that this was not the route that I was to take, um, that's when I realized I had to make a change, because then my heart was not really in it. My heart was like taking me somewhere else. And that's really how it happened. And I started doing a coaching certification program. That's where I met my current husband, Danny. And that's about the time that I asked myself this question. um, I wonder what living is like. I'm great at surviving, but I really have no clue what living feels like or is like. How do I reach that place um, of living a full potential, like a full life? And for that, I needed to get reacquainted with myself and get in touch with my soul again. And for that, you know, difficult decisions had to be made. And I one of the major one was to get divorced. um, I sold my house, I sold my car, I quit my job. I mean, my life completely turned upside down. And it was necessary. It was necessary to have that so many deaths, if you will, um, to be able to actually have something new be born. Because if we look at the way I was surviving, right? Like, life was a battlefield. And here I am, like a warrior, and like just have to fight for things. And I was exhausted, like any warrior. At certain point, you're like, okay, when is the battle over? Are we done yet? I need a glass of water. you know? And yeah, so that's what happened for me. I was just exhausted. I was just too tired, and I wanted to change. I wanted to get to know myself on a more intimate level, on a deeper level. So yeah, I had to follow the guidance, the internal guidance, and learn to how to be quiet and listen, how to receive, right? And how to take action after I receive the information, because it's no good to just receive information, right? We have to actually put some action behind it. And that's how it started. It was like in 2013 when it all started.
Well, it's quite something, you know, and it takes strength, I suppose, but also, as you say, it's the power of listening to and hearing yourself, you know, which is hard, you know,
Yeah. Yes.
especially there. You mentioned previously, obviously, a little bit about, you know, and I don't want to put you in a spot. I suppose this question is, would you describe yourself as religious or spiritual? Where do you sit on the whole thing?
Yeah. I grew up Catholic, very involved in church, going to church, playing the guitar and singing. I was a reader. I would actually walk to mass by myself every Sunday, children's mass. And but I would say, I mean, looking back, I was never too religious per se. I was more about my connection from my heart to God, and that's what kept me going. I also had questions since a young age regarding what these people were talking about, you know, regarding God. And because the God that I felt was truly unconditional, it wasn't like, well, if you do this, then you get to heaven. If you don't, like, I don't
Is that not
believe
the
in
way it
that.
works? No.
I mean, I don't know how it works. Okay. I'm not going to tell you, but for me, you know, and I can tell you, Pete, source, which is, I call it source energy now because it's
Mm,
not a person, it's not like God as a man or a woman or whatever. It's just an energy, it's an all creative energy. That's what actually love is this connection, this creation energy. Um, it just is. It doesn't have judgment, period. And the full stop. That's the end of the sentence. It does not have judgment. So I never understood. That's how I felt God in my heart as a kid. So I'm thinking, what are these people talking about? You know, the best part was Father Manuel, who was the priest at my church, who he adored me and my brother, because perhaps because we were so involved in church, or maybe he saw something in me. I don't know. Um, I would go to confession because that's what you're supposed to do in the Catholic Church. And I would go confess, and he would say to me, "Oh, but what kind of sin can you have?" I'm like, "No, Father, you have to confess me. I have to confess." You know, he was so cute. He's like, I mean, I was 8 or 9 years old, you know, and so I would just tell him, "Well, I fought with my brother, and or I had this feeling, you know, or okay, go pray a Hail Mary and to our Father, whatever it was." But he was so cute. He's like, "What kind of sins can you have?" So I had the good fortune of having a very good, you know, down to earth priest. He wasn't extremely religious, you know, or obtuse in his faith. And that was nice. That was very nice. He would come to our house for dinners and stuff. And so, um, but now I don't shy away from talking about God per se, just because, you know, some people see it in a more religious way.
mm,
But I do have an acceptance of there's not one truth. You know, just because somebody may be Buddhist or Muslim or atheist, oh yeah, I said it, that doesn't mean that they're not connecting to a higher power.
sure.
Everybody is in their own journey, and I have the utmost respect for not only other people's journeys, but also understanding that I don't know what your journey is about.
Mm,
And I cannot pretend to know or presume that I know. That would be completely arrogant on my part and not very loving, to be honest with you. So, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge anybody? You know, we're here to have an experience, and we all go back to source. Source is what created us, and is it's there, whether it's negative or positive, evil or not evil. I mean, it just doesn't matter. The definitions that as humans we attribute to things or experiences or people or religions, the path, it doesn't matter. It's like everybody's going to find what they need to find and go through what they need to go through. I'm nobody to judge that.
mm.
You know, I do understand that I don't understand. You know, that's the best way to put it.
Do you, I mean, in terms then, I suppose, of the energy alignment, then, whilst you can never sort of live in someone's shoes per se, do you pick up on the symptoms, if you like, of the causation of what maybe has happened? Is that when you talk about energy alignment, is that what you're feeling?
Yes. So everything has, and I'll try to put all this in like as concrete terms as possible. So everything has a consciousness, even a chair. And just like what I was doing when I was little, that I would just look at nature and just feel into nature, or what I was doing as a teacher, that just feel into the kids to see what they need. Well, this is like exponentially, like that's what it is, but like even stronger or deeper. So I can tune into a person and sense or see or know things about the person that needs to be brought back into alignment. And that can be anything from if they experienced a trauma, like I had people that had cancer, or sexual abuse, or I mean all kinds of things, or growing up with an alcoholic parent. I mean any kind of trauma. It doesn't have to be that big. Those are big examples, but it can be small, like, I always felt inferior to my older brother because he got all the accolades, and I always felt like that's a trauma, for a little kid. So it can be also, um, what I perceive or sense. It could be related to the physical body, such as like your liver needs to be detoxed, or or your eyes this, or your whatever it is, your skin this, or you have this back pain because it's trying to talk to you and tell you this, and this is how you release it. Or it could also be emotional, or it could also be in our kind of like our etheric body or spiritual body. So it's all interconnected, and many people now are, thank God, they're like it's becoming a broader awareness of what Reiki is, and the energy centers, and how we have, all these energy centers that they are supposed to be in alignment and spinning right to work properly within the body, and when they're off, then it makes everything out of whack, right? So for example, if my throat energy center is blocked because, for example, I grew up in an abusive household and I never voiced what I want, or forget about the abusive household, I just like I don't honor myself and respect myself enough to say what I want to say or ask for what I want. It could be in silly things like, I want, you cooked for me and you're like, how is it? Oh, it's great, but it needs more salt. In my mind, I want to ask for salt, but I'm not asking. Even stuff like that will start to block a specific energy center. So then if my throat is blocked, then it's going to block my sense of self, my solar plexus. It may block my intuition, because if I don't have a voice, why am I going to listen? Like, I'm not in touch with, any other voices. So it just throws off the alignment in the entire person. And of course, some energy centers are more, some in everybody are, not all of them are messed up or closed up or anything. But so some people may have heart chakra issues, and some people may have the throat chakra or the sacral chakra. So yeah.
And then when you talk about, the sort of the heart activator side of what you do, is that a continuation of the energy and the flow through the heart as such, or how does that come into play?
Yes, many times. And the reason why I put that in my website is because I use source energy, and I'm also a Reiki master and quantum healer. But like the best way for me to explain what I do is I channel, like I am yeah, like a messenger, like a channeler of source energy. And I'm able to to throw, I almost say throw, yeah, I'm able to throw that energy onto people and just have that energy go through the person. And as it goes through, it starts to put things back into alignment, and whatever needs healing, it gets healed. um, and you were talking about the heart. Many times, like 9 out of 10 people, it's the heart that gets super activated, and I see the bright light, healing the person. Why? Because as sensory beings that we are, the heart is this beautiful organ that, what does it do? It pumps blood, right? Like it closes and opens and closes, opens and closes. It's almost like the essence of what the heart is like it opens and closes all the time. But because we get traumatized, or we get sad, or we get angry, or whatever it is, and we don't know how to digest our emotions, then we close up our hearts and they stay closed. And a closed heart, it just takes us away from actually living the life that we could be living. So a lot of what I do is I help people open that heart again so they can be free within their own spirit, and live from a heart centered place, so they can be quiet and listen to the voice and take action, right? And be inspired, which we cannot do when our hearts are blocked or guarded. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I see this, the fun part is like I see sometimes, most of the times I see what the heart looks like. I'll see a lock, or I'll see a wall around it, or I'll see, or I will feel too, like I feel sadness, or I'll feel anger or fear, whatever it is the person feels, I can feel that too. And in that validation where I can tell you I see you, and I don't judge you, I love you, I'm holding this space and you got this, and in that also the healing happens. It takes place in the what's the word, like I'm presencing, is that the word? I am observing your suffering
Hmm.
in such a neutral way that it also helps you heal. So it's beautiful. It's really, it speaks of how connected we are as human beings, that when we come together, um, miracles happen. And that's how I see it. That's why I don't feel like, even though I'm the one channeling the energy, it doesn't matter. It's like another person does it for me. Like we're all equal. We're all in this together.
I actually found myself slightly breathless as you talk there. I don't know why. I'm sort of almost holding my breath. It's bizarre. It's yeah. I love that. I love that depth of connection. It's something else. I want to be
Yes.
quite respectful of your time here, really. I suppose. But what does fire in the belly mean to you?
What is what? I'm sorry.
Fire in the belly. What does it mean to
Oh
you?
yes, fire in the belly. I love, first of all, I love fire, maybe because I'm a Leo, I'm a fire sign.
Love it.
Fire in the belly, it is really that witnessing was the word I was looking. Witnessing another human being. For me, it just is when everything falls into place. It's when I can see the way I was created for what I was created, and giving of myself for somebody else. There's nothing better than that, other than ice cream. But
What's your go-to on the ice cream?
dulce de leche, of course.
Love it. Love it. That's always a question I love to ask. What's your guilty pleasure? And generally, it's chocolate or ice cream. So you're
Oh
you're
yes,
you're
but
spot on.
no guilt here, Pete. No
No
guilt
guilt.
here.
Okay. Your pleasure then. Your leisure and pleasure. It's
But
beautiful.
and I always tell Danny, I said, when I'm in that space where I can hold that space for somebody to heal and let go, it's like, I mean, I just love it. I just love to be able to be that one person that just comes into your life and loves you no matter what. And I call myself a temporary friend. Like, you can just call me, we'll do the alignment, and off you go, and to a better life. And so I just love that. I live for those moments. And it is related to my other experiences. That moment when I would see a kid's face, like, feel accepted by me or loved by me. I never forget this one student that used to come to lunch to my classroom. My classroom was always full of students, even the ones that I didn't even, they were not in my classroom. Um, and she would come, and I'm like, why don't you go have lunch with your friends, go have fun. She's like, no, I like to be here. You feel good. I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, your energy feels good. And that was like also like the beginning of me going like, oh, like energy, what? And I started to continue to ask myself more and more, like we are feelers, we're all sensory beings, and as long as we continue to shut down, we're never going to be able to live full lives, because we are in this human body, and it's such a beautiful gift. Creation, if we were all to stop a little bit more and contemplate nature, and just be quiet and feel the energy of nature and look at it and how vast and diverse and just perfect it is, we would have a different appreciation for life and for the gift that life is. And so, if it is a gift and we're here, why not be fully here? You know?
Mm.
And we don't have to do it alone. As a matter of fact, I have tried to do it alone and it just only produced a lot of pain. So, I humbled myself and I put my pride in the coffee table, and I ask for help. And people are ready to help and love you. The right people will just come into your life, say the right thing, help you in the right way, call you at the right moment. It's miraculous. And that's the life we're all meant to live.
What's the one thing that you would like everyone to hear or to do or to get? What's that one thing?
I would say, despite how down you may be, have the courage to hold on to that glimpse of hope and trust, and reach out, because reach out for help so that you can get out of that hole. You're not meant to be in that hole forever. And the life that you could be living, that is yours to live, that is your sacred gift, it's wants you 1,000 times more. This is not because I want to say it. This is my experience.
Mm.
This is what I am going through.
It's amazing. Just, yeah, know your gift or listen to your gift. It's
Yes.
beautiful. Beautiful.
The message I received in 2013 was to trust in the power of your heart. And it's a message that I continue to embrace and dive deeper and deeper, more intimately, because I had no idea what it means to trust, what it is, the power that it has, what it is to live a heart centered life. I wanted it, but I didn't know what it takes and what it actually means.
Mm.
And as I continued to develop this trust in my own heart, I see the miracles and I see the joy that it brings me in the simplicity of the experiences that I have.
I find it fascinating because when you talk about teaching, you use visual language, and yet when you talk about the healing side and the energy side, you talk very much about kinesthetic language, the feeling side.
Yes.
It's just a different use of language completely.
I never saw that in myself. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because you almost know which part what you're talking about because you change. Um, yeah, they change the senses, so it's just interesting.
Yes.
Oh well.
That is a
Well,
good point. That's a great point that I would love to actually add on, because often when we hear some people, when they hear people like myself, oh, trust in the power of your heart, and what does it mean to love, and blah blah blah, they think that it negates the use of our brain. But our brains are amazing. They're amazing computers, and machines. So it doesn't negate that. Just like you can see when I'm tuning into what, it's all useful. There's no wasted material here as human beings. So in no way it means to negate the brilliance of the mind, because the mind can actually create also, and it can help us connect to source. This is the mind is how I receive a lot of messages for people, and connect to different spirit guides and angels and stuff like that. But the heart is kind of like the captain in the ship.
mm, I mean, would you classify yourself as, would you be a medium or psychic? Would you be any of those as well?
I am a medium
Hmm.
because I can talk to spirits. I can talk, yeah. I'm a channeler because I can tell you what they're saying. I don't really get hung up on stuff. I don't really predict the future that much.
Mm,
But yeah, I would say like I'm a medium, a channeler.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions, but I want to be respectful of your time. Listen, it's been beautiful having you on. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
just so people can reach out to you, and they can follow you on your website. It's Anna Laura Levin.com.
Yes. Yes. It's very simple.
Yes, so that's always good. Apart if I pronounced it right, is a good start as well. So that's great. So people really that can follow you and reach out and learn more. So Anna, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pete. So much. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you.